Our next session will explore how AI-powered solutions are revolutionizing banking by enhancing personalized customer interactions, streamlining banking ecosystems, and redefining financial decision-making. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is a keynote titled Innovative to Elevate, leveraging Gen AI to transform banking beyond expectations. Delivering this keynote is Mr. Mahesh Ramamoorthy, Chief Information Officer at Yes Bank, who will share his insights on the future of AI in banking. Ladies and gentlemen, this session promises to be very, very interesting. Let's give a huge round of applause as we welcome him on stage.
Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Samir, for having me over. Really appreciate it. We've had a 2-decade-long engagement, so really, I think it's great to see digital fifths emerging every year, stronger, larger, and very networked. Hi, Mahesh, how are you? Good. So I think the topic that Samir and I were discussing, and it's very interesting here, is about AI to start with, right? And there's a huge amount today. Every session that you look at, everyone who organizes is talking about AI, how AI can really help various sectors, how we can really innovate around using AI. What I probably will come across to you is more from a practitioner's perspective. And clearly, having been in the banking technology sector for over 30 years of my career, there are advantages. There are constraints. I think it's very important for us to understand how we change ourselves, how we adapt to be able to utilize the opportunities that lie in front of us. So let me start with about the fact that what does AI really help us to do? Today, if you look at for AI, every bank or any financial institutions today have a lot of data. There's a lot of data that exists. I think the fundamental to anything that you want to do is about making sure that you understand the data first in a way that it comes together and you're able to identify what kind of information and in that information the data comes together at. So today, any bank or any financial institutions minimum have 10 to 15 systems of records, too many transactional data, all of that. We all pipe it into what we call it as lakes, from where we start to try to do some intelligence around it. I think when the advent of AI, there is a huge opportunity for us to tap into this AI the data that is available, and to see what more that we can really do. But to do so, there are some very interesting observations. First and foremost for us is to understand as to what do you want to use it for. So if I were to take a step back in terms of understanding the power of AI, it is front to back. You look at the front side is all about how you drive experience. The experience is going to be how can you bring your data overlaid with the AI capability into your journeys, into the front-end journeys, service journeys, onboarding journeys. How do you make that more contextual to the person's or the customer's interaction? That is going to be very, very important because at the end of the day, for us to be able to make it meaningful, the customer needs to be, you need to understand what context that particular interaction is all about. So let me give you a simple example. When a customer is trying to do a payment, it has to be very clear. You need to be very clear why the customer and what kind of history is the customer trying to do. And in terms of how often, there are so many different cases and data that you need to analyze and use that in context to take it in front. So that kind of intelligence that you need to build in the customer experience side requires that you pulled out your use case properly and then build on top of that. So your experience journeys is one big one. The second part is your servicing journeys. Your servicing journeys today, now the big new buzzword is about Agentic AI, right? Is about how do you take this data into your contact center. The simple thing is your contact center. How do you take your contact center to, now today all the banks, all of our institutions have CRMs. But those CRMs are point-in-time views that really generate. How do you can make the agentic AI do a lot of work in the front end for the agents, as well as automate a lot of the work that otherwise you will be used with the normal RPAs and everything. How can you use agentic AIs to do it? So that's the next big piece that is coming in. But I think the use of AI in my mind for us to make the experience better, safe, is all around the middle side, which is essentially on risk management. Because to me, I think AI has, with the kind of data and the kind of transaction history we have, especially for banks, I do believe that the AI use cases are very strong in risk management, in the policy creation that is there, the entire space around fraud management, back testing that one does in terms of policies, and more importantly, in terms of how you can do enhanced risk management on the information and security side. I think these are big use cases that AI really brings to the table today. Now, we are seeing now most of the banks today have worked with a lot of cloud service providers and the large, big companies, tech companies. We've also done some initial experiments where I'll tell you one of the beautiful use cases that come in is about how does a statement talk to the customer. It's very interesting when you look at a use case of how does a statement talk to a customer, which means how do you take the data that you have, how do you apply the intelligence of the trained data to be able to feed it in and present a much more intelligent view to the customer as the customer starts reading through the statement. But there is a catch here. And the biggest catch here is, and that's where everything is coming to a bit of a stop and a halt or a bit of a hold off, is how do you train the data? And what data do you use to train? Because today, any bank, any institutions, they are the guardians of the data. And the biggest thing is, at best, they can use data which is within their ecosystem or use that to sort of feed into it. I think the biggest challenge that we today are facing is the fact that how most of us in the tech world struggle to really understand as to how do we use the LLMs that are currently available in the market. What kind of opportunity do we really build as cohorts within the banking ecosystem to train? Because if we don't train the data, if you don't train the logic that you have put across there, there is a high, I would say, high possibility that you are going to create variations or you're going to get incorrect results. And these incorrect results will end up creating differentiated experience in the front end, which essentially the biases could lead to a situation where customer experiences could get damaging to not only you, but to the brand. So I think for us, while the opportunity of using new technology comes in, a lot of what financial institutions, banks need to really sit down to try and work with the OEMs, with the providers, is to three things. First and foremost is jot down what are the kind of use cases, what are the opportunities, what is the return on the investments by doing this? Is it creating efficiencies? It is creating a better NPS scores. Once you do that, it is about saying what kind of data that you need to build up. Because ultimately, now you need to understand where all the data points are coming in, how do you join the data points, and how do you then create the logics, the ML models behind it, what kind of, I would say, algorithms that you need to put in place to be able to drive the required outcomes. Now, doing that and then to train it, one of the biggest challenges comes in. Now, when we experimented, we did a POC about 4 or 5 different use cases. The outcomes do not come in so easily. It takes us good 3 to 4 months to come out with even a 25% success. I'll give you a classic use case is, now we try to do certain experiments with even generating some intelligent statements. We were working with on a very, I would say boxed use cases with about 1,000 odd data points. Trust me that after about 1.5, 2 months of intensive exercise and with probably the best brains, our success percentages were around 20, 25%. Now, when you sit back and look at it, it's nice, beautiful. You say, there's so many names to it. Today we have conversational AI, you have Agentic AI and everything. But at the heart of it, we realize that our opportunity to train, opportunity to really, I would say, bring out, keep the biases out, make sure that you really don't create hallucinations in the data, is the biggest blocker, Because we as banks or we as financial institutions or regulated entities have to be extremely careful of what data we are exposing to whom and how we have to really go beyond it. So to this, I think one of the big things that as organizations is that now, and this is some conversations we've been having with a few players, is to say, can we create cohorts? Cohorts of banks, cohorts of, I would say, financial institutions, which essentially can create a certain kind of, I would say, not masked information, but there are information which are essentially regulatorily exchangeable, which essentially can help us train this data. Once you train this data, which essentially is going to give value propositions, then it is now publicly available. Now, this is one of the interesting conversations we've been having with some of the larger institutions to be able to see how this kind of learnings, trainings can help them feed it. Otherwise, my personal view is that you're going to have limited ROI by implementing on your own information. Because then you have to have at least 3 to 4 months of training to be able to get it. Today, what is generative AI at the end of it? It really looks at the experience side. It really looks at how you can build certain good intelligence in the front end instead of going through huge amounts of reams and reams of paper, reams of PDF files. So that is possible only when you end up looking at the whole cycle. Some simple use cases which has been successful is you have your entire policy, you have your process manuals. How do you now use that? How do you train, how you create your simple vector DBs around it? How do you then bring it into your CRM? I think those are simpler use cases. What does it solve for? It definitely gives a lot of advantages for anyone who joins the organization to be able to give lesser amount of training and for them to ensure that they are probably being able to capture or start working much upfront rather and not creating mistakes. So because they can read through, they can have a better, quick understanding of the processes and all. So to me, I think those are simpler use cases. But the moment you go slightly more intense, intrusive, you need to understand the data points that really suffice to, that really feeds into it. Now, to me, I think this particular, the way we are looking at generative AI, the use cases start from how you can even bring it into your mobile banking. Now, I truly believe that mobile banking in the current shape will dramatically change once certain regulations and everything come in and the use of AI comes in. You don't need so many apps. Now, I genuinely believe that it will become more like a chat. All what you want is available using prompts. And once you do that, the space of creating so many apps on your phone is no longer required. It will get into a much more intelligent way of looking at things. That's going to be the next big wave around it. How do you now enable your branches and your contact centers or your relationship managers to service your customer using that intelligence of all the data that you have, subject to you putting the right levels of training? I think there are multiple use cases. But I think at the end of the day, there is one other area that I would like to leave behind is when I look at all of this, When you look at the whole risk management side, all what you do in the experience side is all possible when you understand how you manage your risks. And when that risk is where I believe that AI in its form is not yet evolved, and it needs to evolve, because at the end of the day, with the increasing digital and digitization of capabilities, data being available about an individual or a customer pretty easily, to be able to make decisions and to be able to make the right decisions with those data is going to be very, very important. But in doing so, I think one of the biggest asks that one has is how to use AI to automate a lot in terms of your backtesting. One of the biggest challenges we have as banks is we have policies. These policies are implemented, credit underwriting gets automated, a lot of stuff happens. But the whole process of validating whether it works or works effectively is fairly data intensive. And that data intensiveness essentially can be very intelligently modified and enabled using the AI capabilities. We have not explored it. I think banking ecosystem needs to start exploring, and there is huge opportunities for anyone who goes into that space, because I truly believe that the power of AI, by managing actively, whether it is in terms of your policy, your rules, your entire, I would say, dedupes, a lot of other areas of risk management, under credit underwriting. I think these are areas are going to help in terms of how you very well feed into the front end, which essentially will then go to getting a better experience. So I think in a short, now I don't have, I think I have about 2-3 more minutes, but I think I would say that today what we are seeing, generative AI is focused, all generative AI, all these AIs have one big problem. They don't explain their decisions. So when there is an outcome, today you deny someone an experience, a loan or something, because it's AI model that comes in. How do you explain it? That is another area, field, where I believe explainable AI, which is now picking up, is going to play a very important part, an extremely important part, feeding into this whole journey. Today, as an experience fails, you need to know why it has failed. Or today you are denied something, you need to know why it is denied. But if you are powering it through AI, I think the explainable AI, the way you're designing your entire game plan has to be around it. So I think as financial institutions, the ability of financial institutions to understand its data, understand the use cases, identify what's the return on its investments that is going to come in, identify how to train the data. You understand, you know what's use cases, you can definitely understand how you want to train the data, and then make use cases, whether it is in the front or in the back office or in the middle office, is what is going to finally give the rightful use of AI. Otherwise, I think we are going to see a lot more digressions, misuse, and which is essentially going to start creating its own set of problem statements that we'll see from a business perspective, leave alone technology. Technology, if you're not using AI in the security side or on the AI side, trust me, you're going to have a problem. We've just seen 2 days ago, Gmail formally confirming that the Gmail boxes have probably got into an AI-based hacking. Now, which means that, you imagine someone as big as them getting into trouble. If we don't know what is happening using AI, we as regulated entities will be hauled up. So we have to tread on the path of experiments, but at the same time, we need to be judiciously careful in terms of how, when, and use this data and the new technologies to make it work for us. So, and hence try to give the experience. So that's a snapshot, a good snapshot from me. I think thanks, Samir, and thanks, everyone. Happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything.
Yeah. So you spoke about agentic AIs being, using it on a broader level. What do you think about implementing agentic AIs on personal level, starting from the top management, but getting, being able to train people within your organization to implement some kind of specialized agents for them? Because everyone's workflow differs in a lot of ways, especially as you go higher. So is there something where y'all think that training your team, training your people in the organization to implement, because implementing, signing into Gmail, signing into, similarly, implementing these on a personal level, which is customized to them, is something that also this industry might look for?
See, at the end of the day, what does agentic AI evolve itself to, right? It is still early stages. I wouldn't say it is in early stages typically here, this side. But to me, I think it will essentially change the way you interact and change the way you deliver a service for yourself or for your clients. So it is about how you use AI to be able to self-explain itself, to provide the service, and more importantly, it is a step in a way that it's adjacencies to the way generative AI works. One is the experience side, and here it is about how you are going to use that to be able to deliver that service better. One is in the front, one is enabler. I think the use cases are plenty. That's why I'm saying you just Google up, you'll get some 200 use cases of agentic AI, but it's evolving. I think the way I look at it is, as you rightly said, as you create your own version of it, and today that's a beautiful possibility that is coming up. Now today, someone who experiments with AI and toolkits into your own phone, your own computers, I think the ability for it to, over time, understand how you to train yourself, how to build certain capabilities, responses, and actions. I think agentic AI has a lot of potential for individuals as well as institutions. There is a huge opportunity. But yes, it has to calibrate itself. So which means that nothing is easy. You have to understand how to feed the right data and the right process to be able to get there.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we close now. I know you have to rush.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramamoorthy. We would like to present to you a token of our appreciation. I must say, with each passing year, Bharat FinTech 2025, the conversations of AI is changing. We are really transforming, and Bharat FinTech 2025 is a proof to that.